Hey, what's up, everybody? The Joe Project podcast is starting in a second, but we quickly wanted to tell you something really important. My name is Chris. I am one of the hosts of the podcast, and we are still crowdfunding for our business. We're creating faith-based mental health educational resources, and we wanted to tell you a little bit more about that before we jump in. So, co-host, tell them about it really quick.
So really quick, my name is Valerie. I am a co-host as well. We're also the creative director and executive director of the Joe Project LLC. We are crowdfunding because we are really, really excited about what God has shared with us to do with mental health impact in the faith-based communities. But we need your help. Our goal is to raise $150K to be able to provide as much great content, workshops. We're hoping to do curriculum. Like, we could go on and on about the things that we want to do. So we are on Indiegogo, and we share all about the vision, about the business, about where the money is going to be going. We're going to be very transparent and honest with you guys, so you guys are aware of what you're sowing into. We also have opportunities for you guys to partner with us in prayer. We have links to our podcast. We have links to some of our workshops that will be on our website. It's just a great place to get to know what the Joe Project is, what it all represents, and what opportunities there are available for you guys, not only to just financially and prayerfully partner with us, but to also engage in our content, either live or virtual, with us.
Yep, so if you go down to the show notes, you'll see that right at the top is our crowdfunding campaign. Go ahead and click that. You can check it out. We have videos and all types of stuff. And let's get into the episode.
Joe Project.
The Joe Project exists. Wow. Let's try that again. The Joe Project.
Rewind.
Was that
Rewind.
Was that your Missy Elliott impression?
No.
The Joe Project exists to equip everyday people with faith-based mental health educational resources.
Wow, different intro.
Well, I mean, we're doing a new thing. And if
Behold, I'm doing a new thing.
Yeah,
Isaiah, right?
I don't know.
Ooh. Now we look like we don't read our Bibles.
The Bible is right here. You can find it. If you are like, wow, that's a new intro, well, first check out our last episode. But also, you can check out everything that we're doing at thejoeproject.co on Instagram, or our website, thejoeproject.co. Valerie, how are you doing?
It was a tough day. The baby's teething. She woke up at 6:30. Her bedtime is supposed to be at 7, and she gets one nap now. So we have to keep her entertained for like 4 or 5 hours at a time, besides our usual 3.5. And then we had to go grocery shopping and make dinner.
The usual stuff.
And we all went for a walk. Chris did the dishes in the morning. I did the dishes in the afternoon. He made her breakfast. I made dinner. Like, it's just a lot. And then a bunch of stuff for the business and, some stuff for church, all in between. And I think I'm exhausted, but I'm really excited about today's topic. So
this is your episode, isn't it?
It's not my episode. It's the Lord's episode.
Valerie, did the Lord type out these notes?
He gave them to me.
Was it the Lord's fingers pressing these buttons?
It was the fingers he made.
Oh, my God.
Yes, it's the episode that I created.
What are we talking about today, then?
Dating with mental health challenges.
Pum, pum, pum. Was I supposed to put a sound effect there?
Sure.
Okay, great. Dating with mental health challenges. I think this is an interesting topic.
Indeed.
Just because we've done a lot of conversation about mental health, about like different disorders and illnesses, and I think we have one episode that was about relationships, but I think it was more for the married couples.
Yeah,
and also this was back in season 1.
Season 1, wow.
Season 1.
Long time. That's 2019.
That's no cameras.
Oh, gosh.
That's one microphone.
You'd have to scroll on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you watch your podcast. And just scroll.
Or you could go down to the show notes and it'll be linked there.
Facts.
I do that. That's why I said
no
it.
printer.
Not facts, no printer.
Do people still say that? Remember how I said I felt like I was old because a lot of the stuff that people say now in terms of compliments are very not what I'm used to. So then when people say them, I'm like, what?
Well, you're a millennial. There's a whole generation and a half behind you. So
Dang, wow, that's
you're not
crazy.
on the forefront of the culture's ebonics.
True
So,
that. True that. All right.
Yeah,
Anyway.
let's talk about it.
Okay. So we're not dating. We're married. I mean, we date.
We date.
But we're married. And it's like, well, I don't know if I want to hear from some married folk because, y'all don't understand the struggle currently in 2024.
Okay, so then tell them, why should they listen to the married folk talking about dating?
I can't speak for all married folk. Let me just start with that. So, yes, 2024 is a whole different beast. I'd imagine dating after 2020, a.k.a. the pandemonium happened. Things probably shifted. Again, we met in 2017. We met online, so we were both, learning how to date people in person, and then we also tried online. And obviously, we got married.
Yeah,
Clearly,
that did happen.
That did happen. I have a whole baby now. And I know that sometimes there could be a bit of a wall that might come up if you're dating or currently in a relationship, and you feel like there may be a disconnect between people who are married and people who are still going through the dating stages. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes it could be hard to be receptive because sometimes you want to speak and hear from people who are currently navigating it and are navigating it successfully because it's much more relatable. They're much more empathetic to what you're currently going through. And that's true. And I'll give you that. And personally, I know when I was dating, I would have loved to have a married couple, and not just any married couple, a married couple that was happy and thriving in their marriage. Because apparently, and I've heard from several sources that have done either marital counseling or biblical counseling for married couples or pastors, they're like, most marriages are either like on the rocks, not healthy, toxic, not necessarily abusive, although there are some who, there is abuse happening, of course. And then there are some marriages that are just kind of going through the motions, and they observe that that was more of the norm versus like happy, thriving, growing people who are satisfied and enjoying their marriage. And again, this is not to brag. I feel like we have a happy, thriving marriage.
I'm happy and thriving. Are you happy and thriving?
I'm lit. Okay, I take every opportunity to brag about him, not because I'm trying to be extra, but it's because I respect and admire you as a person so much. And I think one of the things is our personalities do well. I think God did a great thing putting us together because our personalities mesh well. Because of that, we were kind of able to get through certain parts of the dating stage. Like when we were talking, it was so easy to talk. We would talk for 5-6 hours at a time.
And I don't even like talking on the phone, but this one?
Right. But the thing is that never stopped. Even with conflicts while we were dating, even when you were experiencing mental health symptoms in front of me for the first time, and you saw that OCD was becoming so much more magnified during that time in my life that you just happened to come in. So you saw me, I saw you at some of the worst, and we still talked. Mm-hmm. We still communicated. We were still very intentional. So I recognize, yes, we do have very compatible personality types. We think very similarly. We both love Jesus. We both love to laugh. And we both have a very strong conviction to do the work to maintain the strength of the relationship. Mm-hmm. And are always willing to submit to the other person as often as we can. And it's not like been daisy and roses all the time. If anything,
it hasn't been lilies.
Hasn't been lilies. LOL, I see what you did there because our last name is Lily. But I think as we've grown and as we've learned to continue trusting each other more and more. But I think it's because we always establish that we need to be vulnerable and honest about what we're thinking and what we're feeling so that when a situation comes up, a conflict comes up, a disagreement comes up where one person is hurt, my initial instinct isn't, Chris intentionally tried to hurt me. It's, okay, what is Chris's perspective that I need to consider before I allow my feelings to paint this picture that may be very incorrect, oftentimes most likely will be incorrect. And I think that's helped us a lot in our marriage. It's like we defer to each other often. We try to do our own things, of course, so that we're healthy individuals, but we took a lot of time to understand what it is to communicate and what communication looks like in different stages of our marriage, different stages of our lives, individual lives. Some days are different than other days. It's still a learning process, but establishing that foundational trust has been huge for us.
I have a hot take.
Yeah.
Okay, because I remember when we talked about this earlier, you said something really interesting, and it's that using the example of some people at our church, the singles don't want to hear from the marrieds, right? But I have a hot take about that. The reason why is because none of the marrieds want to talk about their crap. Oh, no, but I'm serious, because I think about how if you're going through something and you see somebody who potentially is either going through the same thing, let me do something else. Like, let's say you are a basketball player, right? And you just started your, basketball journey, right? And you see another player who's a little bit further ahead than you, like they're better than you, but they're not like holding it over your head. And you're like going to them, like seeking advice, like, hey, bro, like, what can I do to get better? And then he just says, man, just stay the course, just do what you got to do. That's what I did. And I know that you could do it too. And it's very surface level. One, that helps nobody. But two, that person's not going to go to the established basketball player for any advice anymore, because he knows that it's only skin deep. It doesn't get any deeper. And I think that there are a lot of married people who have great testimonies, right? Or who are currently struggling and have a great facade on the outside, but because of the fear of embarrassment or nervousness or shame, right, they choose to keep everything hidden, right? Now, I'm not saying go out on Sunday and air out all your dirty laundry. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that what would it look like if married couples would not only be vulnerable when the crap hits the fan? Like, what does it look like to have a culture of vulnerability between each other, and then have that vulnerability available for when people who can benefit from your experience and from your wisdom, having that vulnerability available for them to glean from as well. I think that a lot more people who are single and seeking relationships would listen to married folk
if they were honest about what it is.
And if they talked about what the heck actually is going on. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry. Your passion rubbed off on me just for that one little point, because
it's true.
It's just, it's
this is mental health in the gospel, right? This is what we hope to be a vulnerable, transparent, honest, biblically sound, and empirically sound platform. Because again, how can we learn and glean wisdom from people who have gone through something that we're either going through or are at a stage that we want to be? Because we all recognize that not everybody who's single wants to get married. Some people want to be single. Cool.
And that's fine.
We're talking about the single people who are actively desiring to be married. I would definitely want to converse with, be mentored by, discipled by people who are happily married, because they could teach me, hey, this is what happens when you get married. This is our testimony. These are the things we had to learn and go through. So when you're dating, now you can actively be aware of those things and therefore navigate your relationship accordingly. It's like, communication is a huge touching point for married couples. We got to make sure we're navigating communication as effectively as possible while we're dating, so that when we do get married, it's just amplified at that point.
So are we doing that? Are we being open with our happy marriage and kind of trying to give game to the people of God?
I'm an open book.
Valerie is an open book.
I sometimes think I talk too much, but
Valerie is an open book. I am open up until chapter 8, right? But
he's working on it.
I'm working on it. That's a personal journey for Chris. Let's just jump in, okay?
Put yourself out there. Okay.
I did. There's one last thing I want to say before we jump in, though. A lot of the stuff that we're going to say, especially when we're gleaning from our own relationship, some of the stuff will feel like it's very specific. So we're going to try our best to have these general principles, right? But kind of glean some wisdom both from, what we know, what we've researched, as well as what the Word of God says. There are going to be some things that are not black and white, and there's going to be some things that are very black and white, and you'll be able to apply them to your situation, even if it doesn't look exactly like the way that we're saying it. Now that I've said that, That was good, right?
Yes.
Hey, look at you looking
See
at me.
why I like him so much? Like,
I didn't prepare
anyway,
that. That's why.
this is why I be talking about him. Anyway.
All right. So number one, if you are a believer, make sure who you are dating is a believer as well. You know what that makes me think of?
That's like core.
So you know what that makes me think of? It makes me think of the conservatives made a dating app just for them, right? You see Christian Mingle, you see blackpeoplemeet.com, farmersonly.com. I'm just picking random ones.
Oh, I was like, that's a thing for real? Okay,
Oh, no,
that's
it
cute.
is. Farmersonly.com is a real thing.
Oh, that's cute. Good for the farmers.
But there's just something that works really well when you and the person that you're potentially getting matched up with, you have similar values, similar ideals. It's easier for some of those initial bumps for you to, overcome them. But I don't think that this is the same thing, actually, right? Because if we're talking about if you're a believer, make sure who you're dating is a believer as well. I feel like that's really talking about really deep moral understandings, very deep beliefs that inform everything that you say and do, right? Like I look at the Bible, it says in Second Timothy 2 verse 22, it says, so flee youthful passions and pursue righteousness, faith, love, and peace, along with those who call on the Lord from a pure heart. Imagine you going to date somebody, right? And you're fleeing from youthful passions and pursuing righteousness, faith, love, and peace. And that person is pursuing youthful passions and doesn't care about righteousness, faith, love, and peace. How's that going to work?
I don't want peace. I want problems. Sorry.
Always.
Sorry, I had to say that. But exactly. I mean, this is our final submission call, okay?
So dramatic.
At the end of the day, what does the Bible say about the various issues of life that we're going to go through? Because this is the ultimate authority, God. And God gave us his word so that we know what he feels about certain things. How can I trust you as a believer to submit to this final authority that we both committed to and said yes to if you're not a believer? Mm-hmm. This informs my entire life. Yes, God speaks in very prophetic ways. He speaks about specific situations that aren't stark clear in the Bible. Like we talked about earlier that, they didn't talk about encephalitis in the Bible. So how do we know how to navigate it? Again,
I said appendicitis.
I thought of another word that you use very often.
Thank you.
So we understand that there's like specific circumstances that the Bible may not capture specifically. Now, I'm sure you probably could find something. The Bible is living, and it can often provide a lot of wisdom and understanding. Like the same verse for one person may mean something completely different for another. So again, this word is the final authority with which we navigate. Is God cool with this?
Right.
So if you and your partner or the person you're dating are not both submitted to the same type of authority, the same type of life codes, the same type of cheat codes, the same type of lifestyles and mindsets and religious affiliation, fill in the blank with whatever. If it's not the same, that means when a certain situation comes up and you're like, well, I need to research and learn what the Bible says, pray about it, and your partner doesn't, how are you guys going to walk together in unity and in agreement if you guys do not have a foundational, the same foundational truth with which you live your life off of?
Right.
That's going to be very difficult when you're dating. And if you desire to be married, even worse, even harder. Because now your lives are merged together. And ideally, you both are seeking the Lord together to see, okay, do we move here? Are we moving here? Do we take this apartment? Do we take that one? Should I take this job? Should I not? Should we have children? Should we not? How many should we have? Like big decisions that you want to depend on the Lord for. You're going to be praying. You're going to be in your prayer closet trying to seek the Lord, reading scripture. And your partner's kind of like, whatever, you know, or if they disagree, it's like they're not going to go to the Lord and pray and submit and allow God to change their heart if that's the will. It's a different type of interaction, and it makes it very tough to navigate life if both final authority isn't Jesus.
Yeah. So when we got matched on our dating app, how did you know that I was a Christian?
So
what did we do?
interestingly enough, I was like, because I saw so many people write that they were Christian. And then we would
Jeremiah
have
29:11 in the bio is not a giveaway, guys.
nor is Philippians 4:13.
Nor is John
Everybody
3:16.
give me a Jude 24.
No,
you
not
know?
even that. Cause if it says God first in his bio, run.
Maybe not, because they might be believers, but I would hope. Okay, but for us, interestingly enough, and this was not on purpose, it kind of just happened that way. When I finally got back from Long Island for Thanksgiving, the only day that you and I were both available was Monday, but I just so happened to be going to Bible study. And I was like, okay, well, if he's a believer, I wonder if he'll come to Bible study with me. We can go together for the first time. It's a perfect opportunity to see how do they talk about Jesus, what's their level of conviction, things of that nature. And you passed with flying colors. I was like, oh, he loved Jesus for real.
Now, I'm not saying that everybody's first date should be, because we got coffee before that, and we had talked a lot before that. I'm not saying everybody's first date should be a Bible study, but you wrote down some really great questions to ask someone, and I think that because we went to a Bible study,
it just happened that those questions got answered.
Those questions got answered,
and we had follow-up conversations too.
Lots of them, right? So if you're a believer and you're trying to date and you're trying to get chose, here are some questions that you should ask to make sure that you are dating someone who believes the same as you. 1, ask them, what does the gospel mean to you? 2, in what ways have you seen God move in your life?
Ooh, let's get specific.
It's a great one. 3, what does spending time with God look like? 4, what do you find yourself feeling convicted about recently, and how are you managing that? And 5, how are you serving at your local church? Can I tell you which one is my favorite on here, actually?
Do tell. I got a lot of these from Jackie Hill Perry, by the way.
Shout out to Jackie Hill Perry. My favorite one is actually, what do you find yourself feeling convicted about recently, and how are you managing that?
My favorite too.
Because to me that does 2 things, right? It's talking about the faith and talking about seeing if that person believes the same as you, but it's also planting that seed of vulnerability, right? Because I can see people answering one of 3 ways, right? 1, fully transparent. I have been struggling with this, and I felt convicted about this, and I've been managing it through Bible study, right? 2, there have been some things that I've been convicted about, but I don't feel comfortable sharing them right now since this is a first date or a second date or a third date or whatever, right?
Right.
You know, you have to build up that trust. Or 3, man, I just take it one day at a time. I'm just trying to live my life, and I'm not, don't judge other people. Don't got people judge, and it's that surface thing. Right?
And believers, that is not how it is for us. For us, it's like, I was trying to do this, and I used to do this a lot in the club, and I used to have a great time. But now
Not the club, Valerie.
I know that's such a lame one, but it's like
it's not like lame. It's
when
just,
you get Holy Spirit lives on the inside of you, your whole life changes, and it's very apparent. Like things you didn't think twice about doing, now you're starting to get convicted of if it's sinful. So it's like that. A question will get at them real quick. I wanted to ask you really quick. Why do you think, mental health wise, as somebody who may struggle with mental health, why dating a believer as a believer is more beneficial to you in that respect?
I think
Sorry,
that
you have a fuzzy on your eye. Got it.
What was the question?
Sorry. What do you think are the mental health implications behind why it would be better as a believer to date somebody who is a believer as well?
So I think that if we're talking about what we have grown up to understand believing in Jesus to be, we're talking about allowing someone to be a savior and Lord, right? Literally someone who we trust has our best interest in heart, trust that he is ultimately good, ultimately faithful, ultimately loving, ultimately just, right? All of those things. And if those things are true, we are also trusting his direction. We're trusting that if he says to go left, then he's not going to make me go left and die, right? So if I meet somebody like Valerie and that person finds out that I struggle with depression and I am a believer, then that tells them a little bit of how I am trying to sustain myself as a man with depression, even if I'm not in the state where I can go to therapy or I can get medication or I can really rely on a lot of people around me, because that's actually what it was like when we first met, right? But just the fact that I'm a believer, I'm not saying that that is the end all be all, but I am saying that that gives you really great insight into who's actually in the driver's seat of who's making the decisions here, right?
That's great.
Who's your counsel? Who's your pilot? Because I would say co-pilot, but Jesus is not my co-pilot.
He's the pilot.
He's
He
the
is
pilot.
the pilot.
Right? So it's different, right? If you know I'm struggling with depression and I'm a believer, then you know, okay, that means that, and he's serious about his faith. We've established that. That means he's going to church. That means he's trying to read his Bible. That means he's trying to pray. Even if he's not doing it every day, and even if the depressive symptoms make it hard for him, I know what he believes, and I know that he believes that God is who he says he is, right? And I believe that he takes God seriously, because to be depressed and still be a believer and lament to God and struggle with it and still claim it and still be able to answer all of these questions, I think it's just easier to trust that that person is not only trying to do their best spiritually, but they're trusting that God will help them make the best decisions mentally as well.
Yeah, I agree. I have nothing to add.
Well, great. Glad we said that one. Number 2.
Very well done.
Here's the next thing you should do if you're dating and you want to, if you're a believer and you want to date. That's what I meant. Pace yourself.
Have mental health and have mental health
and
symptoms.
have mental health symptoms. Pace yourself. Romantic relationships are not definitive in alleviating or eliminating mental health symptoms, but they make a positive impact, particularly if you have a healthy relationship. So that's why it's important that you take your time with who you choose to date and who you decide to spend your time with. I love that one because there's an aspect of it that is universal. Right? When we did our episode on avoiding triggers for the holidays, one of the things that we said was that if there is somebody who is constantly triggering you, if you know you're going to go see family, one of the things that you could do is temporarily remove yourself from that situation so that that person loses the power of the trigger over you. Right. But imagine how much more beneficial it is to have somebody who's devoted to you, who loves you, and is committed to helping you not just work through those triggers, but ultimately heal through them. Right? That's like the opposite of it, right? Yeah.
And we want to mention, like, pace yourself, because there can be a temptation to feel like your symptoms will be alleviated, or that a relationship would solve all your problems, or that it'll make you feel worthwhile and loved, and, you know, that you are, you know, not crazy, or, sorry, I know that word is kind of not politically correct. I couldn't think of anything. So sorry. But essentially why we're saying pace yourself is a good partner and a good husband or wife is a rare thing. It's a beautiful thing. It is worth the wait. I know people hate hearing that, but I'm telling you, after being on the other side and after hearing countless women talk about the same thing, it's worth the wait, because they see the benefit of how their marital relationships, or how when they were dating, the symptoms didn't go away, but it was so great to have found a partner who was supportive, understanding, and empathetic towards what they were going through. And even to that example, imagine if your partner was with you in that triggering situation. You'd have a sounding board. You have somebody who, depending on how brave they are and how, you know, comfortable they are with your family, able to step in the gap for you. Not saying that you can't defend yourself, but there are going to be times where you're still healing and you're still trying to navigate triggers. Maybe you just found out that the person that you are in relationship with does trigger you to some extent whenever you're around them, right? And you're just discovering this. You tell this to a partner. The partner knows. They're prepared. So even though you may or may not have a triggering situation, they are ready to support you in whatever capacity that they can. And that's always a great thing. So, because I know that's something that happens, like especially when you're seriously dating and or engaged. You often bring them around your family because, again, you guys are about to become, you know, family with each other's, you know, family. So I think that's why pacing yourself, we mentioned taking your time, because again, it does take time to not only find somebody who is a suitable partner for you, you have to pray through it, discern, obviously, but because it's worthwhile to ensure that this relationship is a place where you know your mental health symptoms won't be, I don't want to say exacerbated, because they might or might not be, depending. They won't add to the injuries, if that makes sense. Like, there's certain things they may do, may trigger certain things, but it's not because they purposefully are trying to hurt you or are reckless in how they behave with you. Right. It's more of, this was a situation that happened in a previous relationship, my mom, my dad, parents, whatever. But you're able to recognize you're not the trigger. You just happen to bring about the feelings that I had before because of something you might have said or did unintentionally. So again, and hopefully that partner will be like, yo, I did not mean to do it like that. This is what I was feeling and thinking. I'm sorry that it triggered you, and you guys are able to communicate from there. Yeah. I hope that makes sense.
I think that leads very well into the next one.
What is it?
You forgot what you wrote?
Yeah.
Girl. All right. Dating with mental illness, here's another thing you should do. Make sure you check out the character of the person that you're dating.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm not putting character above whether or not they're a believer, but being a believer and going to church and serving at church is actually not the end all be all. Okay,
sure isn't.
And I love the stuff that you wrote down. I'm gonna add to it at the end.
Do it.
Look for somebody who's empathetic. Look for somebody who is emotionally intelligent, and this is key, willing to grow in this area. We're going to define it in a second. I love that definition.
Yes, please.
Find you somebody who's self-aware. Find you somebody who is willing to grow in areas that are not just emotional intelligence. And find someone who's willing to be honest with you. And that means with constructive criticism as well. Mm-hmm. Let's take a step back.
Yes, and define some of these.
What is emotional intelligence?
I'm going to read the definition because I have my own, but this one's really good. The capacity to be aware of, control, and express one's emotions, and to handle interpersonal relationships judiciously and empathetically. Mm-hmm. Judiciously meaning I am observing, I am judging accordingly with wisdom so that I'm able to discern who to be in relationship with, who not to be in relationship with, what capacity you're able to be in a relationship with them, what capacity you aren't able to be in a relationship with them in. And then there's the internal awareness of, okay, this is the emotion I'm feeling. And again, not everybody is really great at this because we aren't taught emotional intelligence. This is something that is being taught, I'm hoping, to our generation and beyond. But there is an intrapersonal understanding of one's emotions, where they may come from, where they're going, how they're kind of coming about, and being able to manage them in a healthy way.
Intra meaning between you and you.
Yeah, you and you. Inter, you and another person. Intra, it's you, yourself, and you.
All three of y'all.
All three of y'all. So I love that they mention both the self aspect and emotional intelligence with other people, because that's really, really important.
Where'd you get that definition from?
I forgot where I got the definition from. I think it's the APA. It's one of the psychological websites that I make sure to find my definitions from if they have it.
Yeah, if it's APA, then I'll put it on the screen. If it's
so
APA.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I forgot to add that.
It's okay.
But it's a good definition though, right?
Yeah, it's a good definition. I want to add to this.
Do it.
Look for somebody who is patient. Look for someone who you saw where I was going?
Go to 1 Corinthians 13.
Turn in your Bibles.
And replace your partner with...
Well, it's not a partner yet, because remember, we're looking to see if this person could be a partner,
Oh, true.
This is dating.
True.
Right? It also could apply if you're like struggling to wonder if like your partner is the right person, right? Is the person patient, right? Is Darrell kind, right? Is Clarissa not envious, Does Sarah boast? So then Sarah, calm it down, right? What about Darnell? Is he arrogant? Tell him to calm down, okay? And God forbid Shalisa gets irritable, is self-seeking and rude. That's not what we should be looking for. But the reason why I say this is because that's from the love chapter. It's quoted at all of the stuff, right?
The weddings, especially.
Weddings, all of that. but I feel like it's giving you, it is literally the cheat code for characteristics of people who you should be looking at and looking for, not just as a believer, but also as somebody who may be struggling with their mental health. Or if they are somebody struggling with their mental health, but they still have these aspects about them, like,
Either
what?
they have them or they're actively growing in these specific aspects. I think of the fruit of the Spirit. Joy,
love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. I was going to go say that one back at the believer thing, because if you see them exhibiting that, that's fruit that the Holy Spirit is living in and active inside of them.
Exactly. So,
My God.
the Bible is chock full of characteristics that you want to look for. And the reason why we say emotional intelligence, self-awareness, etc., is because when we're in relationships with people, and this is even outside of dating, just in general, oftentimes emotions do get into, I mean, we're emotional about everything, right? But there's just something about people. There's just something about people and being in a relationship with people that brings up emotions the most. I think it's because people can hurt you the most, so people can also bring you up the most, right? Again, Jesus is the ultimate, and Jesus uses people, right?
Yeah.
So I think anytime the Bible lists out characteristics about how somebody as a believer should act, you want to use that as the litmus test for your partner and also for yourself. Because building emotional intelligence is not just, I'm looking for somebody who's emotionally intelligent, but you probably would want to grow in emotional intelligence too, because relationships are a two-way street. And if anything, you're called to submit unto one another. If your desire is to be married, you need to start learning how to submit and defer to one another while you're dating. And therefore, cheat codes, 1 Corinthians 13 is a huge one. Start there. I would go to Galatians as well. Start there. And then continue to do Bible study so that you are actively aware. These are the characteristics I should look for. And I'm sure a partner who is looking to have a healthy marriage is probably looking for that in me as well.
Yeah.
Self-awareness will do so much for you.
The last thing I'll say before I push us to the next note, because I was looking at the time and I was like, we are very passionate.
Who cares?
I do, because, camera gets hot, this, that, the other.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
The person that you're looking at may not be perfect, right?
Exactly.
However, these characteristics will still exist. I'm not a perfect man. Valerie is definitely not a perfect woman.
Almost. I'm sorry.
Valerie's for sure not a perfect woman, but Valerie is incredibly empathetic. And the times that she has not been empathetic have been very few and far between, but they've existed. But that didn't stop me from remembering the vast majority of times that I've seen her not just be empathetic, but also patient and kind and loving and willing to grow and self-aware. So the balance is much more weighted over here for her exhibiting those characteristics that show, one, I can trust her, but then two, I know that she's trusting the Lord. Let's keep going.
Oh, thanks, babe.
You're
Anyway.
so welcome.
All right, so the next one.
Also, if you hit the
what's up?
table with your hand, the microphone picks it up.
Sorry.
So
I get very excited.
keep your excitement to yourself, ma'am.
I don't know how to do that. Okay. Number 4. And this is a tough one. Know when to disclose details about your mental health. Now, this is something you'll have to discern and pray for. I wish I could give you a perfect blueprint. I mean, technically, I feel like if you see a lot of these characteristics that we brought up, and I'm not just talking about this is something that you see them when they're front facing with you, because I know that when you're dating and then getting in a relationship at those very beginning stages, the person's going to put up as much of a front of positivity and good character as much as possible. But you want to see, how do they treat their friends? How do they treat their family members? What do people say about this person? Because that'll give you also a great blueprint as to how this person acts in all of their relationships, or at least the majority. Again, different relationships require different context, and different, aspects of our personality may come out. But at the end of the day, is there a core theme that this is a person of character? And if they are, and you find that this is somebody you're interested in pursuing a committed relationship with, aka being boyfriend and girlfriend and taking that next step, it is important that you disclose your mental health symptoms. And a great partner will be like, okay, I appreciate you telling me. They're going to do their own research, how to support somebody with AKA diagnosis, right? And you want to be important, or you want to make sure that this is of vital importance when you guys are beginning to talk about long-term commitments, because that will be a factor that will play in, depending on how pervasive the disorder is, how pervasive your symptoms may be. May determine, how you guys will have to navigate relationship aspects. But at the end of the day, do make them aware of what types of things they're going through, and definitely be open to people who may be struggling as well. Because again, you want to support them in the best capacity that you can. And the more information and knowledge you get about it, the easier it is to navigate. Not easy, but easier.
Yeah. I think I told you I was struggling with depression when I knew I could trust you.
Yeah, it was pretty early on. I can't remember.
Yeah, well,
I
knew I could trust you pretty early. Like, what is that a problem? Oh my God. That was gonna be my only, not even really addition, because I think that you said that really well. I just want to add a scripture to it. I think it's helpful.
Yeah.
This is Proverbs 17:17.
I love Proverbs. Good one.
Proverbs 17:17 says, "A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for a difficult time." Here's what I glean from this, right?
So good.
Because it does say friend and brother, and I think of the difference between those two relationships, and one is inherently closer than the other, right? Now, I pray that I am not reading too much into this, right? However, my relationship with you as husband and wife is deeper than my relationship with you when we were just friends and when we were dating, right?
100%.
And because when we were friends, I saw how you platonically and lightly romantically, I saw how you loved me as a friend. It made it easier for me to share with you the thing that was tough, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then later on, when you witnessed the thing that was tough, that just made our relationship stronger, right?
Yeah.
Because I think that it would be a whole different story if, I don't know if you're going to tell this story, if we get to Florida that one time and I am in the middle of a really rough depressive episode and I am like catatonic and you're like, what is wrong with this man?
Yeah.
I've never seen him like this before. If it's brand new information to you, right, I either omitted the truth or I lied, that's going to cause some kind of doubt on your, like that's all. And you know what? That's always a plot point in these movies that I hate watching. Anyway.
The lack of communication, and all of a sudden all hell breaks loose, and you're just like, if you just would have had a conversation, we would have had 30 minutes of just drama-free happiness.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think it's important to be upfront. I think that how deep you get into let's say we're talking about like OCD, like with you. I'm sure that if we did it again, you might disclose OCD. You may not disclose the specifics about it or like what happens when you get triggered or that kind of thing on the first meeting. But at least that upfront saying, hey, I'm just letting you know that one of the things that I do struggle with is, or one of the things that I live with is depression. One of the things I live with is this, and I've been working on it. But that's just a reality of how I live my.
I know we're low. We are time, whatever. But
we might have to do a part 2.
I know we might. So, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
But I think what I want to highlight with OCD in particular, I think the reason why you ended up having to learn about all of it, one is because I was discovering all of it, but two, it was because it was actively impacting my life present, including things like, and I shared before, I got my second ever panic attack on the train. And now OCD for me is like the dirtiness, contamination aspect. New York City is
Welcome to New York.
Yeah, it's not the cleanest city in the world, but my symptoms were exacerbated when I moved up here, right? Yeah. Should have thought about it, but I really wanted to go to Columbia. And because I had a panic attack on the train, Chris actually just happened to be there. So he was supporting me through it. He didn't understand what was happening at the time, but he supported me through it. And the thing was, I think obviously having mental health symptoms yourself probably helped you key into like, there's something else going on here, which is great. There's a high level of empathy that you displayed there. But I think what was helpful was as I got to know more about what things trigger the intrusive thoughts or what intrusive thoughts were happening, it made putting into context why panic attack happened on the train for that first time. Again, I don't know why it was the train that time. But afterwards, because we live in New York City and we have to take the train more often, we had to have a conversation about what it looks like to go out on dates where it's not walking distance, where we have to take the train because Ubers are very expensive and you were part-time, I was a student. And we had to kind of create a plan of how we're going to navigate going on the train.
Yep.
You got games, you worked on distracting me, you stood up with me because I never wanted to sit down because I knew I was going to focus too much on whatever aspect. So we always were by the...
I got you, babe.
Right, we were always by the door where I can look outside or look at the darkness because, sometimes you're underground.
That sounded like something I would say.
And you distracted me. Now, again, I did have to learn to navigate OCD with being on the train. You were not qualified to do that, so you just helped me navigate it, and it was helpful at the time because it allowed us to get to certain destinations that we needed to get to.
Like your engagement.
Like my engagement. But I think that from what I'm gleaning from that story is oftentimes you are going to want to discern when to disclose your mental health symptoms, but especially if you know those symptoms impact your relationship and interaction with this person.
Yes.
Because that is going to be crucial.
Yes.
For us, that's when my conversation with OCD came up because it was actively impacting our relationship. Not in like the most negative way, because you were very open and I was open with you, but because we were doing things that activated the intrusive thoughts or made them worse. So we had to have the conversation.
Right.
So I would also use as a rule of thumb, if they've established they have great character, they're super empathetic, make sure you talk about your symptoms, especially as it becomes more impactful on your day-to-day relationship interactions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's really good.
I wanted to add that. Yeah.
I'm going to make an executive decision as the creative director.
Okay.
Okay? There's so much good stuff that we still have left to say.
We really do.
So I'm going to say
I guess it's great that it's February.
Yeah, it's great that it's Love Month. Happy Love Month.
So we got more for Love Month.
So
LOL.
Can we make the last 4 a part 2?
Yeah.
All right.
Y'all would love that, right? Cliffhanger.
So here's 2 things that I need you to do, okay? 1, follow us at thejoeproject.co on Instagram.
Hey.
And 2, wherever it is that you'd like, either on Instagram, on YouTube, on our video, even on Spotify. There's a little thing to put the little thing on the thing, put little comments, right? I want you to write down any questions or comments that you have about dating with mental illness, especially as a believer, whether that is dating somebody who struggles with mental illness. If you are somebody who struggles with it, any questions at all, we will try our best to do our research and get back.
And we know single people who are also mental health experts who can also provide wisdom that we could share with you as well.
Yes, but that will be in part 2, or depending on how many questions we get, it may be even a further video after that as well. But I'll figure that out. I'm the creative director. Any last thoughts, Valerie?
I love this topic, and I'm really excited to continue talking about it. Also, if you would like to support us, the Joe Project is now a business. It is now, it's a ministry, but obviously it's a business because that's how we have to apply it in New York, in New Jersey State.
It's not just how it is a business.
It is a business, and primarily it's focused on the ministry of making faith-based mental health resources available to everyday people. We are doing a crowdfunding campaign on Indiegogo, so we'll link it below if you'd like to donate and be a part of what we're doing. Again, we believe that when you sow into something that God is doing, Paul talks about it in Philippians, and I love it. Philippians 4, he talks about, I am so appreciative of the financial gifts and support that you guys have given me, not for my sake, I appreciate it, but because God's going to bless you as a result of your giving, of the fact that you obeyed him and things of that nature. Like, I love that Paul said that because it means that when we partner with people who are doing what God has called them to do, what God is seeking to do, we get to actively be not just a part of his hands and feet, but we get to be blessed too. And again, it's not to give to be blessed, but it's beautiful. Because oftentimes that we've given, it wasn't because we gave and looking to be blessed, but we were so excited to see the benefit of where our money went.
Yep.
So again, I always highlight Philippians 4 because it's an amazing chapter. You should read it.
Yeah. So
But if you'd like to partner with us, pray with us, engage with other aspects of our content, because we are a podcast, but we also are going to do workshops and things of that nature, virtual and in person. You can find out all about it on our website and on our Indiegogo campaign, and we'd love for all of you guys to be a part of what's happening, because again, we want to get to know you, we want to talk with you, and we want to break stigmas, because again, we are still trying to debunk myths and stop the over-spiritualization and under-spiritualization of mental health, period, which I know people don't say no more, but I really love it.
Oh my gosh, Valerie, let us have a thing. Period is now ours, okay? Okay. Yeah.
I need some nails for that. Okay. Sorry.
Follow us at thejoeproject.co.
On Instagram.
On Instagram. And yeah, I think that's it.
Part 2 to come.
Part 2 coming.